I'm Marin, and this is Post-its and Pens. Hello and welcome to or welcome back to my channel. My name is Marin, and here you will find a little beauty, a little books, and a little teaching content. So if that sounds like something you might enjoy, I would love for you to subscribe and stick around and join me in my little corner of YouTube. In today's video, I am going to be taking you through my June TBR picks, featuring what I will be reading for the Whatever You Want-a-thon or Whateverathon, which is being hosted by Maddie at Book Browsing Blog for the entire month of June. I'm going to go ahead and link her announcement video down in the description box. Please do check it out if on the off chance you have yet to hear about the readathon and would like to participate. So without further ado, here are the choices that are going to fill the prompts for the Whatever You Want-a-thon. For this readathon, Maddie did create a list of prompts to try to fulfill, and fulfilling them earns your team some extra points. I'm going to go ahead and put the prompts here, but I am going to go ahead and go one by one through them, let you know what book I chose. I will give you a very brief synopsis of the book because some of them are quite old and you may not have heard of them if you are just more focused on newer releases, and I will kind of let you know why I chose the book. So here we go. The first prompt is that the cover of the book reminds you of a pride flag. For this book, I chose Incarnate by Jodi Meadows. This book features the colors pink, purple, and blue, which reminds me of the bisexual pride flag. So I am very excited to go ahead and read this one. It is one that I own on my actual bookshelves that I have had since the book was released, and it is just time to finally give it a read and see if I am actually going to enjoy it enough to continue with the series, because I believe it is a trilogy. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a little synopsis of the book. So this trilogy is called the New Soul Trilogy. It is a trilogy that focuses on Anna. Anna is born with what her mother believes is no soul, which is something that requires her to kind of be hidden away because this is a world where reincarnation happens and it's kind of just the way things go. So basically her mother has kept her away from society, but she decides that she's going to kind of travel and figure out what is actually going on with her. And as she does, some things happen, I believe, to cause some drama, of course. And yeah, it's basically just about her trying to figure out if she's actually been reincarnated without a soul or not. She meets a guy, I believe, whose name is Sam. He thinks that she is a good person rather than a portent of evil, which is what everyone else thinks. And yeah, I believe that it's just kind of a bit of a mystery trying to figure out what's up with her, and it just sounds interesting, so I'm excited to finally give it a read. The next book on my TBR will actually fulfill two prompts. One of them is to reread a comfort read, and the other one is to read a book that features your team colors. Now, I am on Team Dreams and Drama Queens, which is hosted by Maddie at Book Browsing Blog and Ashley at A Frolic Through Fiction. The team color is green. So for this, I chose The Magician's Nephew by C.S. Lewis, which is the first book in the Chronicle of Narnia series. Now, this book actually focuses on Diggory and Polly, who find their way into Narnia through a world that has a bunch of different lakes, and you can travel to different worlds. It just talks about the creation of Narnia, how Jadis, or the White Witch, came to inhabit Narnia, and kind of just sets the whole series up. So I'm very excited to give it a reread. I do want to reread the entire series this year, so this is a good time to go ahead and get started on that. The next prompt is to read a book that you believe will be a 5-star read. So it is a 5-star prediction prompt. For this, I chose Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. This is a book that I actually own on my shelves that has been there since the book was published, and it is just time for me to go ahead and give it a read. I mentioned in my 21 books that I want to read in 2021 video, which I'll link up here, that I want to read a couple of her books this year, so it's time to go ahead and get started on that. This book actually tells the tale of a wartime sinking of I believe a German cruise liner that gets sunk by the Soviet army. And it was supposed to ferry wartime personnel and refugees to safety from the advancing Red Army. So it basically tells the story of 4 people who are, I believe, either on the ship or taking part in when all of this happened. And even though it is a fictional account, I've heard that their voices are extremely well done, and it is something that did happen. So I am a lover of historical fiction. All of her books are historical fiction. So I am very much looking forward to this and just have a feeling that I'm really going to love it. The next prompt is to read an author's debut, and for this one I chose All Our Yesterdays by Kristen Terrill. Now, I actually had an e-galley of this way back in 2013 when it was released that I never had a chance to read. I do not have that e-galley anymore, obviously. That was a very long time ago, so I am borrowing this one from my library, but it has been on my TBR since I believe actually late 2012, which is when people started getting arcs of it and really talking about it. It got quite a bit of hype back in the day, and I am very interested to see if it holds up. So this tells the story of a girl named Em and a boy named Finn. They are locked in a cell, not together, but next to each other, and the doctor, or a doctor, is keeping them there because he's demanding that they tell him what he wants to know, but they can't tell him what he wants to know because what he wants to know hasn't actually happened yet. So it sounds like there's some either time travel or seeing into the future or something like that going on, a little bit of dystopia. It just sounds interesting, and I'm excited to finally get around to reading it. The next prompt is to read a book that is out of your comfort zone. Now, I have chosen a book for this. However, I may be combining this prompt with another one depending on how my reading is going for the month of June, because there is another book that will fit this prompt as well, which I will get to in a minute. But right now, I am planning on reading Great Goddesses: Life Lessons from Myths and Monsters by Nikita Gill. I do not read much poetry. It is not something that I gravitate to. It's not something that I even really have in my collection. So I am borrowing this one from the library, but this one is poetry about Greek mythology, and I love Greek mythology, so if I'm going to read poetry, it's going to be something like this. So I'm excited to give it a go, see what I think, but again, I may not actually get to this one. I may fill this prompt with another book, so we'll just see in my June wrap-up if I manage to read all of these books or if I had to go ahead and combine a few. The next prompt is to read a book that you hauled in the past year. Now, I am not buying books in 2021. I bought very few books in 2020 and really only made some purchases from a local independent bookstore when they were really hurting because of COVID. And I also received a gift card from my aunt and uncle for Christmas. And one of the books that I did pick up with that gift card was Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. Now, this one has mixed reviews, I believe. It is one that I'm was curious enough about to purchase, but I'm not really sure how I'm going to feel once I read it, so it shall be an adventure. So this book tells the story of a woman named Laurel whose daughter goes missing when she is 15, and it talks a little bit about, I guess, life when that all happened, and then it jumps forward 10 years in time, and she's never really given up hope of finding her daughter, and so then she meets another girl who reminds her a lot of her daughter, and I guess the mystery kind of unravels from there. So I'll be curious to see what I think of it, but it does sound interesting. I don't read a ton of mystery, so this could also fit in the out of your comfort zone prompt, but I do plan on giving it a go and just seeing how my reading plays plays out and whether I can read more than this title or not. The next prompt is to find a book that is indie or self-published, and for this one I chose Brightest Kind of Darkness by P.T. Michelle. This is the story of a 16-year-old girl whose name is Nara, and she basically is a seer. She dreams the events of what's going to happen the next day. So she tries not to use that gift to change fate. She kind of tries to let things play out, but she sees something that she decides she can't actually let play out, and then the book kind of takes off from there, I believe. So this is a self-published book. It was published by the author. It was published in 2011, and I've had it on my Kindle probably since then. It did get some really good reviews from people whose opinions I trust, and it's time for me to go ahead and give it a go and see what I think. It is the first in a series, so we will see what I think of it and if I'm interested in continuing on with the series. The next prompt is to read a book with POC representation, and for this prompt I have chosen the graphic novel March, written by John Lewis. This details the civil rights movement in the South and John Lewis's involvement in the civil rights movement, and it just kind of is a factual retelling of everything that happened in the South during that time period. I do not read very many graphic novels, so this is another book that could actually fit the out of my comfort zone prompt. And I am definitely curious to see what I think of it. I'm sure it will be very, very good. I've heard amazing things about it. It is one that I actually own, and it will be nice to finally get it read and see what I think about it, or not even what I think about it, but just learn a little bit, I think, because I'm sure he's including some things in there that are not in the mainstream history of the civil rights movement, and I am excited to learn something new and see what he has to say about it. The next prompt was actually to do a poll and have others choose your book. So I did put a poll on my Twitter. I just randomly selected 4 books. I used the random number generator. I went to my want to read shelf on Goodreads. I picked 4 numbers and I put those books in the poll. You can see here that the overwhelming winner was With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is a very hyped book right now, so I'm not sure anyone really needs a synopsis, but I'll go ahead and give a little brief one from Goodreads. So it says, basically, ever since she got pregnant freshman year, Imani Santiago's life has been about making the tough decisions, doing what has to be done for her daughter and her abuela. The one place she can let all that go is in the kitchen, where she adds a little something magical to everything she cooks, turning her food into straight up goodness. So basically it tells the story of Imani and what her life is like, I guess, having had a baby her freshman year of high school, and kind of the trials and tribulations she has to go to try to obtain her dream of becoming a chef. So I'm very excited to read it. I've heard amazing things about it, and it will be my poll pick prompt. The next book on my TBR again fulfills 2 prompts. The first one is that it has to be on a bookish creator's favorite list, and it also serves the prompt of a buddy read, and that book is The Once and Future Witches by Alix E. Harrow. This book is actually Maddie from Book Browsing Blog's favorite book, or one of her favorite books, and since she is the team captain, or one of the team captains for the Dreams and Drama Queens team, I decided to go ahead and give this book a go. I will be listening to it on audiobook and doing the buddy read with some other people on Discord, and I'm very excited to see why Maddie likes it so much. The next prompt is to find a book that has either disability or mental health representation. The book that I chose for this prompt is A Quiet Kind of Thunder by Sara Barnard. And this tells the story of a girl who can't speak and a boy who can't hear, which definitely serves the prompt of having a disability. It basically just talks about how they learn to communicate, and I believe it's a little bit of a love story, and it just sounded like a really good book. I do not own this one. I'm borrowing it from my library as I did not have anything on my shelves that really fit this prompt, but this one sounds like it will be a really good contemporary, kind of nice and hard-hitting, and I'm looking forward to it. The next prompt is to find a book where the last letter of the first book's title is the first letter of the next book's title. I actually have some books already on my TBR that will fit that prompt. So I can read Salt to the Sea, and then All Our Yesterdays. The A of Salt to the Sea goes with the A in All Our Yesterdays. And I just need to make sure that I read it in that order so that it fulfills that prompt. Okay, and the last prompt that I'm going to go ahead and spin a wheel for is that I need to find a book that fits a TBR game prompt. So since I have my own kind of TBR game, even though it's not a game, I'm going to go ahead and spin that wheel and find a book that fits that last prompt. So here we go. So the choice that I got was actually contemporary, so I'm going to go ahead and take a look through my want to read shelf and my actual bookshelf and figure out what I'm going to choose. Okay, for contemporary, I'm going to go ahead and read Truth or Dare. This was written by Jacqueline Green. Again, this came out a really long time ago. There is actually a book 2, possibly even a book 3. I don't really know. This one has been on my shelf since it was published, and that was, let's see, 2013. So definitely going to give this a go. This will serve the last prompt on my Whateveryouwantathon TBR, and it will serve the prompt of fits a TBR game prompt, and the prompt was contemporary. So that will be the list of books that I am going to read. I'm going to go ahead and put a picture right here of the prompts all filled out with the book titles on there. And yeah, we shall see how I do. This is way more books than I typically read in a month. However, school gets out June 3rd, so I should have the entire month to relax and read as much as I want to. So hopefully I can get through all of the books. If not, I will be kind of mix and matching those prompts as I mentioned. And yeah, we'll see how I do in my June wrap up. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more from me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.